weirdo Tim and Eric type stuff.
Exactly.
Just go off the rails.
Heavy on the weirdo.
Yeah.
Are we live? We recording? Video, audio? Love it. Cool. Episode 2. Welcome, everybody. Tampa Bay Developer Podcast. Already messed that up, but it's okay. We'll keep it rolling.
Keep it moving.
Here today with Lat Turner.
How's it going?
With the St. Pete Pop Art Gallery/studio.
Gallery, yeah.
Gallery. Open it up soon. What made you want to start something like that?
A confluence of good timing, personal taste, the things I'm into, and you found a perfect location for it, really.
That was the key, right? The combination of like a live work unit, ground floor commercial, and then upstairs you got your apartment.
Yeah, the 1-1 condos upstairs, galleries downstairs, one on Central Ave. It's perfect.
Super easy commute to work.
Literally a walk down a flight of stairs.
Walk down a flight of stairs.
It's pretty great. Yeah, I can't complain.
Were you always kind of into what type of art would you call it, first of all?
Pop
art.
Poppy, contemporary. Yeah, just pop art, pretty much.
Were you always into that, like even as a kid?
I think a lot of people would probably agree that we as millennials have always been kind of exposed to like weirder, more out there stuff, especially compared to what our parents were into. We've always been kind of exposed to Takashi Murakami without even realizing it. He's had a bunch of stuff. He designed Kanye's graduation album logo, or album cover.
Yeah, you showed me that. When you first mentioned that name, I didn't really know who it was. And then connecting it to Kanye, I was like, oh my God, I've known that for 15 years. Crazy.
Not obviously to bring up more of a controversial figure right now, but the little graduation bear shooting out of the building, all that's Takashi Murakami. Like, KAWS has done a bunch of stuff for him. Just a bunch of different people we've kind of subconsciously been exposed to. And then it just, right time, right place, really.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've been seeing so much more of that type of art.
A ton of it.
Nowadays, I mean, rappers, pop stars, celebrities, it's in movies. What's crazy too is like designer stores. Like I was in Italy on my honeymoon. The Louis Vuitton store had some of that type of artwork. Gucci stores, like kind of digging into it. Louis especially, yeah. Do you ever see yourself having a designer component like fashion pop art?
Maybe that kind of stuff is, I feel like probably in a harder legal situation to like buy and resell. So maybe not, but like Takashi Murakami designed Louis Vuitton's little flower insignia 25, 30 years ago now. And Yayoi Kusama has got the polka dot collection with LV. So like pop art and high fashion has always been integrated.
Right, yeah.
I think it's just more on people's radar now.
It's so much more like today's artwork and pop art is so much more out there and colorful and just...
I mean, that's like a Warhol kind of, right?
Literally, yeah. That's an Andy Warhol, $, 19...
Probably 52 or something, 60s.
I think it's
probably out of frame.
The late,
artwork right there on the wall.
We'll show it in the screen, but 1967.
Yeah.
And if you look at that, it looks super similar to something you would see today.
Yeah. I mean, Warhol has been, prolific the whole time.
Right.
He's like
He's
the godfather of pop art.
Exactly, yeah.
Take Marilyn Monroe, put her in 4 different colors, $80 million.
I got that at Home Goods. I tell people are like, oh, like $signs in like a professional office. Like that's so like childish and like what are you trying to do here? That's a Warhol. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
How dare you?
Yeah, go to Sotheby's. It'll catch $100 million at auction.
Exactly, bro.
Yeah.
So right now, what phase of the gallery are you in?
Pretty close to opening, actually.
Amazing.
Like the build out, really, the physical space, the build out.
Yeah.
All the behind the scenes stuff is almost done. The physical space is almost done.
That's sick.
Getting close.
That's amazing, dude. And you're also collecting right now too, like getting pieces, getting all the artwork together.
Yeah. That I think is where most of this has come from. Like I've always been a collector, and now a little bit more disposable income. The scope of the collection has increased. Pokemon cards as a kid, quarters as a kid, like video game achievements, and now it's art.
Yeah, Pokemon cards is pop art now too, with like Logan Paul.
Yeah.
He's got the
100%. Yeah, $250,000 Charizard around his neck.
That's so crazy.
Yeah,
I wish I'd have kept mine. Damn it.
You probably got a couple laying around somewhere.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane, man. So once the gallery opens, is the setup just going to be, hey, you walk in, there's artwork for sale. Right? Like it's a true gallery.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I guess I'm just buying and selling, finding pieces where I can acquire it, trading stuff, auctions, retail pieces. put them in the store and sell them.
That sounds so fun.
Yeah.
Honestly.
One-stop shop.
And then right, St. Pete Pop Art is the name of the business. Do you see much competition in St. Pete? I mean, is there a lot of
None
art galleries in St. Pete that
art galleries
that
for sure.
type of art? Yeah.
Not that type. There's contemporary, like fine art galleries, but those are all, to me, stuffy.
Yeah.
Kind of old school, like more like, kind of the baby boomer generation style.
Well, there is that demographic in St. Pete. Maybe the person who's retired, who wants something for their condominium.
I feel like you find that kind of stuff. Like St. Pete, I feel like is downtown St. Pete, at least, is kind of two separate worlds. There's by the water, which is all the high-rise condos where all the money is. And there's Central Avenue, which intersects it, which is where the arts district is. Like I'm in the edge district of St. Pete, which is where all the art stuff is.
Right.
Murals and people, like the roundabout right by my condo has chalk art all day, every day of like love, peace, kindness, rainbows and butterflies and just all chalk art on the ground. You wouldn't get that down by the water.
No, because that's the Vinoy.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, what's the big museum right there on the water? The Dolly? Am I thinking of the right place?
The Dolly is, yeah. There's a couple museums. There's the Florida, not whatever museum the Dolly is.
So
right
that
there.
classical art exists in St. Pete.
For sure.
Yeah, so you kind of have that like old world, I retired, I've got a condo, maybe I want some glass sculpture. Chihuly is a big thing in St. Pete.
Chihuly is 2 blocks from my condo.
Which is so crazy.
But yeah.
I feel like St. Pete is a better place to have an art gallery like that versus the other side of the bay in Tampa. No?
Honestly, I think it's both. Like, I think that kind of stuff, like, I think it was Tampa Bay Times had an article about, like, the kind of person who's moving into Tampa. And in the background of the pictures in the article, there's a Takashi Murakami flower plush and a 1000% bear brick, just a, plastic bear, basically, with some art on it. I was like blown away to see that. That's who they featured, was that guy who owns those kinds of things.
Wasn't it the article about, you might not remember or pay attention to the building, but wasn't it the Edition? The guy that moved
it was. Absolutely it was.
I remember you sent that to me and I was like, wow. Like,
it's in our DM somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. Amongst all the other UFOs.
Random,
et cetera.
Yeah, current topics of the day.
Dude, that's super interesting. So it's almost a higher level of art too, right? People that are buying multi-million-dollar condos are interested in this.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the everyday guy that enjoys an Andy Warhol from Home Goods. It's like, no, like someone that wants a multi-million-dollar space is not going for the traditional painting. They're not going for the glass sculpture. They want that bear brick. They want that pop art.
The statement piece, the conversation starter.
The
one thing for like the corner of their room or staircase or coffee table that.
Do you see a higher income demographic coming into your store? Maybe people coming from those condos that are like, dude, I want a cool piece.
Not that I've had customers yet, but it's like,
that's the plan.
A 10-inch vinyl figure from whatever artist is a lot more than I think most people would assume it was.
Right. Yeah.
More money.
Now, how rare are those bear bricks? How rare are those?
Bear bricks are not that rare because they're just made of plastic and like a plastic mold. Artist puts the design on there. They're produced by a company called Medicom Toy in Japan. But the vinyl figures and one-off, like I'm going to be doing a lot of name dropping, so bear with me here. Like Daniel Arsham sculptures are editions of like 100, 200.
You should name drop because then we can tag them.
Yeah.
And then people who are interested in that topic, they can check it out.
Oh, I could rattle off.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Just write it out.
Futura. Right. Yeah. No.
Dude, that's awesome though. Yeah. Daniel Arsham, that dude's super cool. He's got like a Porsche.
Yeah.
What's his style? I mean, what's that called?
You would call him a sculptor for sure. He's a sculptor, like contemporary artist. I wouldn't consider what he does poppy, but he's got, like, if we can pull it up, he's got Pokemon, like the Pokemon starters from the first generation, and these really cool. I don't know what material they're made of. Cast.
It's almost like a metal. I know what you're talking about.
It's not concrete, obviously,
like
but
plaster of Paris.
Yeah, plaster, exactly.
Yeah, pull up.
Eroded with like crystals coming out of them. I think his whole thing is his artwork could exist 1,000 years in the future or the past. So he plays with this. He plays with time in a really cool way.
Yeah,
like it's these relics from our childhoods, set and designed like they were relics discovered 1,000 years from now or ago. So it's pretty cool.
I remember he had one I've seen that was super cool. It was a Pokemon card, not carved, but plastered with like crystals embedded into it.
Big, yeah.
Don't you own that piece?
I have a couple of them.
Can you pull up Daniel
Arsham? Yeah, ARS.
I saw the subscription pull up too. If you have to buy it, go for it. I'm talking to Tyler, by the way. Shout out Tyler, producer man. If you have to buy the subscription, dude, just go ahead and do it. Put her on the Amex. It's a business expense. This is a business.
Write it off. Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, he's super cool, though. He also had the little...
cool. I can see it in the reflection in the window right here.
Perfect. Dude, the Porsche is super cool, man. Look at that thing.
Yeah, he's got a
10 grand.
The picture right there of the clock kind of like pushed into the wall as a lot of things he does with his
Wow, look at the prices. So you mentioned Bear Brick too, how those are a little bit more of a common item. Now if it's an Arsham collab, whatever collab it is, that increases the price.
The Charizard right there for...
Look at that thing.
I don't know if somebody's going to pay that, but that retailed for $9,500. That Charizard, and people bought it up like it was hotcakes.
Now, something that you've been doing too is getting in on art. They'll have like an art drop, like you just mentioned. Okay, this thing dropped at like $9,500, $9,600. How involved are you in getting artwork that's rare like that? Like making sure you're kind of on that front line to pick up some of these pieces. Yeah.
Like there was one that released yesterday, KAWS, another artist I'll probably mention 1,000 times today, released a figure in 3 different colorways yesterday for Valentine's Day. And me and my girlfriend were in the car like, okay, 12 hit. Go, like freaking out trying to buy all this stuff.
You know what this reminds me of? RuneScape back in the day. Well, like you love
and currently.
And currently logging on like Christmas morning, like, nah, you guys can take care of the Christmas presents. Let me get on here and make sure I get the new party hat or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, I got to get the events.
Look at this guy. So do you carry or are you going to carry a lot of his pieces?
My audio cut. Testing.
I can hear it.
Weird. Yeah, my audio just dropped a little bit.
A little bit, or can you hear it now?
No, I can't hear it at all. Like something came unplugged, it sounds like.
Push back in the...
I'm 1. Testing. Yeah, that's better. There we go.
Solid.
Yeah, cool. There we go.
No worries. Back online, everyone.
Awesome.
So these pieces, so do you plan on carrying some of these pieces?
I have a handful of Arsham's pieces, but like the Charizard was like prohibitively expensive. I saw that the price. They don't release the prices of any of these things until the day they drop because they want to get that.
Right.
They want to generate all the demand. And they don't want to push people away.
That's a great way to do it.
I'm at my computer. 12 noon strikes. I see the price and I went, nope.
What was the price?
$9,500 for that one Charizard. But of course, on a secondary site that I use a lot called StockX.
Is this his website?
Yeah.
What the?
Daniel, I love you, buddy. You were pretentious as all get out.
So not only is his art follows through into the website, into the system of it.
He has a collaboration with Kohler, designing a sink, which is this cool like 3D printed. It looks like it's out of the Flintstones, but it's like $15,000 for a sink. Like, no one's gonna buy that.
You say that.
Well,
and then you're going to see it in a condominium in St. Pete, Florida.
Of course, yeah. Kohler signed with him for a reason. Like
Kohler?
Yeah.
That's what's so interesting about art.
Yeah.
You see these brands, Kohler, Louis Vuitton, whatever, these established brands that have been around forever, and then collabing not with like an old,
right,
established artist, but like some new age guy. Like when I look at Daniel Arsham, I don't think of Kohler.
No,
now, the fact that they collab, I think that actually has a little bit of an allure to it. I think that's cool that they have a collaboration, and I guess that's what they're going for. Now, are you going to be looking to do kind of that end of it, more of like Kohler, like those types of collaborations, or are you more focused on, having more variation? Like what I'm saying is, are you focused more on one artist, or just kind of like, hey, pop art? If it's pop art, I want it in the gallery.
Yeah, pretty much. If it's pop art, I want it in the gallery.
Yeah.
I personally love, 4, 5, 6 different artists myself. But if I think somebody else will like it, then I'll get it for the store and put it in there.
That's the thing, right? I mean, I guess you have to make a business decision where it's like, hey, I like this a lot, but only I like it. Maybe I'll keep this upstairs.
Yeah. There's been a lot of that over the last couple of months as I've gotten this project going. But it's just a. Do I think there's a market for this in the area that I'm be selling it in?
You kind of have to make that distinction, right? Otherwise you're just playing like
just buying stuff just to buy it, really.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned Pokemon cards too. Are you going to have a section of the gallery, the store? So you're not going to involve Pokemon cards at all?
No. I mean, besides Daniel Arsham's Pokemon cards, no.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That can be a little personal side project.
But don't you think that a lot of people, I would imagine people who are interested in pop art, 25, 30, 35, younger people, we kind of grew up with Pokemon cards. Don't you think that that would be an interesting thing?
It definitely would. I've got a pretty specific vision and like an overall aesthetic that I want to keep like elevated a little bit.
Interesting. So so you think that Pokemon cards might turn it into more of
just like a general.
Yeah, because you can go to
you go to anywhere.
Whatever, exactly. Yeah. They sell them at Target. They sell,
What I'm trying to go for is I want, obviously any of the pieces that I have, well, not any of them, most of the pieces that I'll have in the gallery, anybody could go onto whatever website and buy for pretty much around the same price that I'll be selling it. I just want it to be like, you come into my shop, one-stop shop, buy the piece, take it home with you that day. You're not paying shipping fees. You're not paying handling fees. You're not waiting 2-3 weeks for verification and shipping and all that stuff. So I'm hoping that's where my margins will fall.
Well, yeah. So really local pop art, and you're going to have local artists in there too, I would assume, as long as they fit the aesthetic.
I mean, I'm 100% foreseeing there being not a rift, but like a conversation. My business's name is St. Pete Pop Art. None of the art is from St. Pete. Eventually, I'd like to. I just haven't involved myself in the art community in St. Pete yet to meet or to know any of the pop artists that are there.
I mean, I'd imagine they're gonna have eyes on you, right? They're gonna say, "What's this St. Pete pop art?" They're gonna check it out. You're in a great spot on Central Avenue.
They go, "Wait a minute, none of this is from St. Pete." So eventually, I'm sure once I find artists that I personally like, that means to me that other people might like it. Get some prints, get a mural up, something like that.
What you mentioned before was kind of interesting too. We touched on acquiring the art, how they have a big hype up about the release of a piece, and then everyone jumps in, and then the price comes out, and it's like, okay, forget it, or cool, I'll go for it. Is that typically how you buy stuff, or is there more of a retail space where there's just art like that readily available?
Almost every single piece that I'll be selling is edition of whatever.
Okay.
So when it comes out, they're gone within.
So minutes. That's sick, dude.
Yeah.
So potentially a lot of the art that you're going to sell, you can only get it either in your store or for secondary market.
Exactly.
Online.
Yeah. Which will always be more than what they retailed for.
Super cool, dude. Super cool. So exclusive pieces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the pieces that I'm planning on having down there, but not for sale, is edition of 75.
Wow.
None of them really. It's this
not
awesome.
For sale?
It's this metallic chrome robot with light up eyes from another artist that has a bunch of figures that I'll feature too, but that's going to be for me.
You should put not for sale or best offer.
Maybe. Yeah. The OBO shelf.
Yeah.
It'll be behind where I'll be standing.
Or some sort of hey, personal collection, but I'll let it go
unless
if someone wants to get crazy with it.
Right. Yeah. That Charizard I was mentioning that it was $9,500. I think within an hour, people had paid $15,000 on this other secondary market website. The demand for these is through the roof.
Which is so crazy.
Yeah.
Now, there's been a lot of talk lately about the NFT space and the crypto space. You were involved in that a little bit.
Yeah. A little too much.
Talk about that. As much as it hurts.
There's definitely a Venn diagram of pop contemporary art and NFTs, because that's, distill it down, that's what it is. You're buying an art piece, the digital art piece. I'm not planning on selling any in my store just because that's it's been such a hot topic the last 2-3 years. There's so much pre-established opinions around it, but there's definitely a crossover between the art that you were seeing from NFTs and the art that I'll be featuring.
Mm-hmm. Now, you were mentioning too, the demand for some of these pieces is outrageous. The secondary market is there. People are making money. People maybe paid, the guy that you said paid $9,500 for that Charizard. Someone ended up paying, what was it, 20?
15, yeah, 20 grand. It's been listed on the sites.
So people are potentially making 100% on their investment, right? Mm-hmm. The NFT / crypto space has been completely devalued. So that space has been essentially shut out. Gutted, right? So it's interesting that pop art has kind of stayed very stable. Do you think it's because it's physical, it's real? Is that the distinction?
That's what I was just going to say. I mean, I would assume so.
Yeah.
Because like with an NFT, in theory, best case scenario is you're not buying the piece of art, you're buying access to whatever the project has to offer.
Right.
You know, the digital contract is what people are after. But an art piece, it's physical, it's in your house, it's on your coffee table. People can come over, look at it, start a conversation. I think that's the difference.
Right. Yeah. It's got to be. It's got to be because the NFT, I actually just saw an article. There's a local shop. Where did I see it? We can try to pull it up possibly, but essentially it's an NFT art gallery, and you go into the gallery and it's like digital copies of an NFT.
That's pretty cool.
With which something to maybe consider, like a QR code or some sort of a component that you pull it up on your phone and you can buy it and exchange it or whatever. Do you think that if that kind of became the new phase of NFT, it would maybe bring back that market? Otherwise, it just seems like a digital platform just ends right there.
Right.
But if it's something that you could actually put in your home with a component that says, "Hey, I own this," like the Andy Warhol. Mm-hmm. It's a copy, obviously.
It's a print, yeah.
But what if I had a little thing that attached to it that was like, I could pull it up and be like, Garrett Greco's the owner. Like maybe that revives the whole NFT space.
A physical space with, because there's digital like frames that you can either plug a USB, like put a SIM card into, an SD card, whatever, and it'll cycle through whatever files you have in there. So a gallery full of digital frames of NFTs would be awesome.
It would be awesome, yeah.
And I think it would bring, it would kind of, not that it's like hush hush, cloak and dagger, whatever, but it would demystify, I think, a lot of what people's preconceptions are about it. And it would kind of make it more legitimate.
Well, sculptures have been around for thousands of years.
Literally.
People understand what it is. People appreciate the craftsmanship and the actual artistic ability someone has, like Daniel Arsham, to create a piece like that.
Right.
I think with an NFT, someone's imagining some 14-year-old on a computer just like digitally creating.
A kid with a stylus and a tablet.
And then, so there's that. And then on the other end, it's like, well, what's the ownership? I can just screenshot it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just right-click Save As. There's your NFT.
Whereas a sculpture is like, no, it's physical. It's one of one.
It's on my coffee table.
This guy created this. It's right there. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's a lot harder to fake, for sure. You can't right-click Save a statue.
Wow. So what is your timeline? You mentioned like you're gearing up for renovation, stuff like that. What are you thinking?
Reno's been done for a while. Yeah, Reno's been done. I'm getting a couple things delivered tomorrow, like a big acrylic statue base for a 4-foot statue that I've got. Little, centerpiece for the gallery. I'm close. I'm extremely close.
That's amazing. You planning on like a grand opening of some sort?
Yeah, for sure.
That'd be dope.
Soft opening. You guys will be invited. Grand opening afterwards.
Soft opening. We'll have to make an announcement.
Yeah.
For the viewers at home. That'll be amazing, dude. Mm-hmm. So 4-foot piece. What's that?
KAWS is a graffiti artist turned contemporary artist, toy manufacturer, vinyl art guy. In 2005, he came out with these 4-foot tall, they're like 46 inches and change. These vinyl figures that are like, the ones that he'd been producing, but they're, it's this giant 4-foot tall statue of this skeleton guy. A picture would probably be good here.
Yeah, pull up KAWS.
KAWS.
Now, KAWS is obviously like his stage name or whatever, like his creator name.
Yeah.
Is he
his real name's
American?
His real name is Brian Donnelly. He's from KAWS is by far my favorite pop artist that I've discovered.
This is a podcast. We got a little time. Mm-hmm. So how did he start? I mean, you know his story?
He was a graffiti artist in New Jersey, or from New Jersey, who was doing all of his work in New York. And his whole thing was like subverting advertisements. So a couple things he's known for, famously, is doing a giant spray piece over a Captain Morgan ad, like a giant billboard that he would like work his figures into. If you could pull up KAWS, oh God, what was it? Subvertising, he called it, where he went to California one time, met this artist named Barry McGee, who was this like subversive counterculture street artist who would break into these bus stop ads with a skeleton key that he made himself. So he gives KAWS one. KAWS goes back to New York and starts keying into bus stop ads, taking down the like Dior, DKNY, like Givenchy, whatever billboard was in there, takes him home, puts his art in it, not over it, like integrates his art into the figure and then puts it back up.
Oh, wow.
Without anybody noticing.
So this is it. This is the Captain Morgan KAWS ad.
Yeah,
you mentioned he was a graffiti artist, which is what this clearly is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pull that one up right there, the Captain.
DKNY.
Look at that. Yeah. Put the mustache on the girl. Actually, that was probably already there. KAWS. So he gained notoriety literally through graffiti.
Oh, that picture right there from the New York Times, the DKNY, was him at the time. The one to the right of the one you're on.
Right there, yeah. That's in the New York Times. One down, bro.
One down. Yeah, New York Times.
Is that him?
That's him.
Wait, so hit visit real quick. This might be the article when this came out in the New York Times.
Maybe, actually.
So he...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, interesting. The surprising ascent of KAWS. Brian Donnelly went from a tagger to blue chip artist.
And dude,
what a story he has, man.
His talent with a spray can is like unrivaled. It's insane how talented he is with a can of spray paint.
Now, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, riding the increasingly blurry line between commercial and fine art.
That's one thing that I've like championed is not the right word, but I've always said like artists should sell out as soon and as quickly and as hard as you can.
Yeah.
That's where the money is. Commercializing.
As long as you can still express your ability.
Of course, yeah.
Like that guy hasn't changed really who he is.
No, not at all. In like 1995, he went to Japan and met a guy who owns a company called Bounty Hunter, a toy manufacturer. Took his little skull and crossbones guy, made an edition of 1,000, 3 different colorways, 333 each. And since then, he's multi-millionaire.
That's so
I think
wild.
he can sleep at night pretty fine.
Right. Yeah, I think he's okay.
Knowing he sold out.
But sold out though, maybe like air quote, right? But you know, he still has his little artistic.
Well, that's why I put it in air quotes.
Exactly.
Because what selling out is up to you. It's whether or not you think he like sold his soul.
Sometimes it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think he qualifies though.
No.
Because it's not like selling out is betraying whatever your core values are as an artist, and his was just make his stuff look cool.
Yeah.
Take an ad home, put a little thing in it, put it back up.
And then how did the furry animal looking thing, I'm sure it has a name.
Oh, yeah. That's his character called the BFF, which is just a complete derivation on like an Elmo. So like the first figures he made was literally just Steamboat Willie. Little like hands on his hips with the suspenders with just a skull and crossbones on his head. He has, Steamboat Willie, this like the original figure. He's got one based on the Michelin Man, Elmo.
So he's always taken other, commercialized expressions and turned it into fine art.
Yeah, subverted it.
Interesting. So he's like your number one guy, if you had to pick.
Yeah.
Now, do you have a lot of his pieces?
Mm-hmm.
Too many?
Too many. Yeah, a ton actually. Yeah, the 4-footer is his.
The 4-footer.
But yeah, it's colloquially called the 4-footer. Everybody in like the collecting sphere
and that's
calls
them
4-footers.
The centerpiece of the gallery.
Yeah.
Amazing. I won't ask you what that costs, but I'm sure it's a pretty penny. I'm sure it's a decent amount.
Less than what I'll be selling it for, hopefully.
Enough to where someone walks in and goes, damn, this dude's serious.
Yeah.
Is that a part do you think that that's kind of a part of your gallery too?
Legitimizes it?
Well, it's like, hey, like I can't just get Pokemon cards and like bear bricks. Like I have to get some pieces that attract a certain level of attention.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I got that piece literally for the store to have it be like, okay, this is like, yeah. Because there's only 100 of them. Each different colorway. There's black, brown, and gray. There's 100 of them in the world.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I don't know how many are in North America. Probably 0 in St. Pete. Well, 1, I guess.
Where did you find it?
Gallery in London. There's a website called artsy.net, I think, which just has a bunch of like gallery listings. Went through there.
So you mentioned you would really ideally only have that local component. They have a website. I mean, would you consider digging into the website, getting on social, getting a website?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I'm working on a website right now.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned QR codes earlier, all of my like price tags are going to be QR codes.
Oh,
pull your phone out, pull up. Because it feels too much like a retail space to have a little, like a literal price tag on something. So I think involving technology in a way, everybody has a cell phone. You intuitively know how to use a QR code. Pull up a website, a little blurb about the artist, the rest of the pieces, like the prices, yada, yada.
Yeah, that makes sense.
A lot more info on a QR code than I can put on a little tag.
Well, I think it, in a weird way, devalues the art if there's
I think
like
so
a
too.
shitty little price tag on it. It just makes me feel like, dude, I don't know.
It just feels like retail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's a QR code, it just makes it a little bit cooler. So anything else besides physical? It almost sounds like it's mostly sculptures. Would you call a KAWS statue a sculpture?
Figure. A figure.
So figure sculptures, is it mostly that space, or are you going to also have, T-shirts, posters, like other types of traditional art, canvas, whatever?
Prints for sure. Like these artists are all gallery artists. Like KAWS has exhibitions all over the world. But what he'll do is obviously most or all of his traditional like hand painted actual artwork he'll do into screen prints. So those kinds of things, if I can get copies of them, yeah.
Just like a little something someone could buy for $20 or whatever.
Galleries have those railings across the top with things that hang down that you could just put prints on. Do that around the entire perimeter.
Well, I feel like I've been in two different types of art galleries. One where it's like it's completely overexposed. You walk in, there's colors, there's posters, there's T-shirts, they're selling stickers, they're selling art.
Way too much.
Yeah. Like there's that style, and there's the other art gallery, pretentious, where it's like there's like one piece on one wall, and you're like, okay,
it's just exposed concrete. The floor is just like
exactly,
more concrete.
Are you going for something in between?
Somewhere pretty much in the middle, yeah. I mean, I definitely want the art to speak for itself. Yeah, because it's all so out there, and people are going to come in and be like, "What the hell is any of this?"
Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't want like too much distraction from.
Do you foresee yourself getting a lot of customers that come in that are maybe just visiting St. Pete, and they're like, "Oh my God, like this is kind of interesting. What's this?" I mean, I guess that's what I
would assume so. Yeah.
That's what a lot of people do when they go to an art gallery. That's what I do. I mean, I don't buy artwork. I just go in and think, "Wow, this is kind of cool."
Yeah. I'm fully prepared to not have that many. Yeah.
Yeah.
If 99% of people just come in and look at it, great. Because really what I'm trying to do too is introduce a new art style and a new aesthetic to the area that I don't think has enough of a foothold.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And I think St. Pete is ripe for it. We were talking earlier about like the difference between the two cities. I think St. Pete has a lot more of a cultural component than Tampa. Tampa's businessy.
Yeah,
for the most part, in general.
Right.
St. Pete does have that artistic vibe, right? I mean, you go down Central Avenue, the amount of local, there's not even like really a Starbucks. You know what I mean? Like
there literally isn't.
They really favor the local flavor, the more colorful types of personalities, stuff like that. So introducing that type of art, I would imagine, would be extremely attractive, especially since maybe it doesn't necessarily have a foothold in that area.
Yeah. I mean, not like I'm going door to door checking what people have in their apartments and condos.
Looking under every rock. I mean,
yeah, exactly. But driving down, driving around town, looking into businesses and stuff, you don't see any of it.
It's really encouraging, probably too, seeing that article with the young guy,
extremely,
young wealthy guy. He's got a beautiful condo, and was it a KAWS or a Bear?
It was a Bear Brick. Yeah. And then I pinched to zoom, and I'm like, oh, what is that? It's a little Takashi Murakami flower pillow.
A flower pillow. Now, some of that type of fun stuff, like you're going to have that type of kind of novelty stuff too.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be, really, it's just going to come down to like, more or less, if I think it's cool, then I'm going to assume that it's, attractive to other people.
It's kind of interesting too, how like the gallery owner becomes an artist in themselves.
Oh, you're a curator for sure.
Right. Yeah. Where the actual gallery is an expression of you and your tastes. And then you can kind of come and go and take some stuff. Maybe you don't think something's cool anymore. Maybe you're like, you know what? I love that. And I want to move that upstairs in my apartment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It kind of becomes my own. Obviously, I'm not taking anything away from actual artists. I'm not an artist myself. I would never pretend to be. But like, it does become a canvas. Or like, oh, I think this will look good here. I want this to go here. Kind of curate the space in a way that I want.
Well, you're the guy, right? Like, you're the guy that gets the artist out to the world. Like, look at KAWS. I mean, without curators like yourself and without brands attaching themselves to that art, maybe no one would know who he was. Maybe he would 100%. Just be a graffiti guy.
Yeah, at this point, KAWS is way past. Like, obviously, he's just an example. Like, he's way past the point. But, I mean, initially, he had a physical brick-and-mortar store called Original Fake, which is a great name for a company. that's gone now because he doesn't need to rely on it. He posts on social media a day before his pieces drop, and everybody clamors to their computers and their cell phones to get them.
What else was it Takashi Murakami? I feel like his art is so much more prevalent than people think. I mean, obviously the Kanye West Graduation album is super iconic. I think when anyone sees that album, they know Takashi Murakami and they know Kanye. It's like boom, hand in hand. What else is out there? I mean, is there anything else in pop culture that he's done?
I mean, there's so much stuff that it's like hard to think of one thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, Louis Vuitton. That alone, when you have a collaboration with Louis Vuitton, letting you design their, their print, whatever you call it, that's a big deal. Like, you've made it, I feel.
I mean, yeah, probably one of the most iconic luxury designer fashion brands in the world is Louis Vuitton. Mm-hmm. What's interesting too is Louis Vuitton doesn't, from what I've seen, necessarily step outside their comfort zone, right? Only certain areas have a Louis Vuitton, certain malls. They're a little bit more closed off to expressing themselves with collaborations that I've seen versus other art brands.
Or what they'll do isn't like, they don't allow just anybody to collaborate. Like the Supreme has had a Louis Vuitton collaboration, but that's like a brand, a big brand that like would rival them just in different avenues, streetwear, high fashion. But yeah, Takashi Murakami was doing their insignia forever, decades. And like just recently, like yesterday, I think they tapped Pharrell to be their new menswear designer, which is huge because he's influenced by Murakami as well. So it's all related, it feels like.
It's almost weird. Like, I feel like back in the day, designer fashion came first, and they they were the creators, and they came out with the products. It hit mainstream. People vibed with it, bought it. It caught like wildfire, and it became established. It's interesting that these brands are reaching out to these pop icons now. Yeah. Where it's like, hey, look, as the designers, as the fashion people, in order to survive, we have to kind of reach outside and get Pharrell. We got to get Supreme. We got to get,
That's what I was going to mention, like survivability and kind of constantly reimagining the brand. Like Virgil Abloh, who just passed away, I think a year or two ago, is famous for Off-White. Super out there, like deconstructed, like very, very thoughtful, intentional fashion design. A million years, you would have never guessed him to collaborate with somebody who's as established as, again, we keep bringing them up, Louis Vuitton. I think Louis Vuitton, honestly, is probably the best for putting themselves out there and collaborating. You don't see Gucci collabs. Well, Xbox, which is weird.
Really?
Yeah, Gucci and Xbox had a collaboration like a year or two ago. We talked about it a little bit, but...
Trying to get them kids, man. Trying to get them kids on board.
Yeah, guy playing Halo. Whatever game it was, and it pans over, and he just has like a Gucci Xbox controller. No, people who play Xbox don't buy Gucci.
Here's the thing.
Vice versa.
Here's the thing too, man. Who knows what those executives are thinking in the boardrooms at that level?
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? How out of touch are they with reality?
The kids like Xbox, right? I don't know.
This relationship is going to be good for both of us, Gucci and Microsoft. It's like, yeah, okay. It's like no one asked for it, but sure, it's cool.
I don't even remember it being like a thing besides the one ad that I sent you.
Yeah,
2 years ago.
Haven't heard about it since.
Literally, no. Who owns a Gucci Xbox that you know? No one.
No one.
Literally.
And even if they did, it'd be like, dude, what are you doing?
Like, why? What are you doing?
Why?
Yeah.
So Louis Vuitton and Murakami. Murakami.
Yeah.
Murakami. You sent me something when you were in Paris. It was like the bubbles, those big.
Yeah, that's Kusama.
Different guy.
Woman, but yeah.
Woman.
Yeah.
Interesting. So who's that? I mean,
yeah, her name's Yayoi Kusama. She's like 94 at this point, super old.
Interesting.
Been doing art her entire life, pretty much. Her style has kind of evolved, obviously, as she's, aged and gone through different things, seeing what she's seen in her life. Yeah. 94-year-old Japanese woman's been through some stuff. Yeah, she's kind of the same way that Murakami is, kind of not nearly as commercialized, because Murakami's got, like you were mentioning earlier, puzzles and stickers and plushes and all different kinds of stuff. She's been more traditional, but again, Louis Vuitton stepped outside of what people would assume their comfort zone is and then you drive down whatever road it is in Paris, and there's a giant statue of Kusama herself painting a giant pumpkin on top of this building, this probably 300-year-old building in Paris.
The Louis Vuitton.
Yeah, exactly. The Louis Vuitton store.
Pull that up, Tyler. That's crazy, dude. So that video you sent me was a Louis Vuitton store, but almost at the same time, like a gallery of her work.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the video you sent me, it didn't even look like they had Louis Vuitton products. It was just like you walked
That
through
was the like third level of the store that I was in, because the guy that I bought a bag from was like, "Oh, dude, like let me show you upstairs. Like clearly you're clearly into this kind of stuff. Let me show you, the private-ish area."
And they had products too, Louis Vuitton products that had her artwork expressed on it.
Which, well, yeah, she's kind of funny because her art style now is just polka dots and pumpkins. Which I've read a couple things in one of her books that mentions that a lot of her art came from, personal therapy in a way, because she's been dealing with a lot of mental issues, schizophrenic, I want to say, in and out of psych wards. Yeah.
Wow.
So art has always been her way to kind of express herself and kind of focus.
Interesting. How did do you know her story of how she kind of got? Yeah.
Yeah. Not nearly as much as some other people.
So this is her.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at
polka dots and pumpkins.
Oh, scroll down a little bit. So that Louis Vuitton store right there, is that the one in Paris? Mm-hmm. How dope is that? Oh my God.
Yeah. You're walking through this,
look at that.
However many centuries old city.
You talk about a collaboration. You talk about a brand going all in on an artist that they think would jive with their product. Mm-hmm. They put her literal sculpture on the building. Look at that.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Does designer fashion go hand in hand with some of this pop art? Because someone like me, right? Not that I'm that into fashion or Louis Vuitton or whatever, but I don't know who that is. You're a little bit more into like fashion, designer wear, stuff like that. Is she a prevalent person in that world? If she's
not at all.
Really?
Like she's never been. I mean, she's an artist through and through. Canvas art. A couple. Actually, what I think most people listening would know her for is her mirror rooms. Infinite like walls and walls of mirrors and pumpkins with polka dots on them. There's pictures of those too. Like I want to say there's something in Tampa, like some art night or some art week that happens every year that she had one of those mirror rooms that I unfortunately wasn't able to make it over. The tickets were all gone. Go figure.
A lot of this stuff seems to be prevalent in huge metros, right? Paris, you mentioned London.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Miami of course,
has a huge
has
scene.
art.
New
Basel,
York,
Basel.
Obviously.
Right.
Did you go to that, by the way?
Yeah, I went.
How sick was that?
Basel was awesome.
I've always wanted to check it out.
Because what's cool about Basel is that, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, I think it's Basel, is it's not like artists don't send their work, galleries send all of their artists they represent. So there'd be like Daniel Arsham, for example, is represented by Perotin or whatever, however you pronounce that. Perotin, it's French, I think. So it's like all of Perotin's artists are in their location. Like another gallery in Japan called Nansaka, who represents a bunch of artists that I'm into. Like you go to their section, there's all of their artists. So it was like I was in a candy store basically.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
A ton of really cool stuff. Yeah, the mirror rooms are on the screen right now.
Dude, yeah. So Infinity Mirror Room. Mm-hmm. Yayoi?
Yeah, Yayoi.
Yayoi. Very cool. Wow. I wonder if her mental illness played a role in some of the creation of this stuff.
100%. Yeah.
Right.
I've been to her gallery, or her, not gallery. It's an entire museum. It's a 3-story museum.
Look at that, man.
I forget which ward it is in Tokyo.
Click the pumpkin one on the left, the yellow one. Look how trippy that is. That's so cool. Smithsonian?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she's been established for a long time.
Like you said, 94. I mean, she's been in the game quite a while.
Yeah.
Super, super cool.
And one thing I've definitely noticed, which I wanted to bring up, is that maybe it's just the artists that have ended up on my radar, but what it seems like to me is that the artists that make the most see the most success and like the most prolification is the ones that repeat a theme, a character, or like a motif. All of Kusama's stuff that she's known for is polka dots and pumpkins.
A signature of sorts.
Yeah. KAWS has his, 2 or 3 figures and a very distinct, obvious visual style of using different characters. He has a bunch of SpongeBob paintings and prints. He has I think it went for $60 million on Sotheby's. It was either a painting of the Simpsons on their couch, which he just titled The Kimpsons with a K. It's like kind of on the nose. Or the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album that he like painted all of his characters into. One of the two of those went for like $60-80 million on auction.
Here's the thing though. Someone already owns it. It's a secondary market, right? He's not getting paid. Like he's not selling it to someone for $60 million, right?
Right.
I mean,
I wonder.
Maybe he gets a fee. I don't know how it works. I guess my point is like, you know, it's almost like the artist just creates what they want to create. And then the market kind of decides this is cool. This isn't cool, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the most successful artists do their own thing.
Yeah.
And just like,
regardless.
Yeah. But like I was saying, a lot of the artists that I'm into and like a lot of the artists that I think have kind of popped up the last, 5, 6, 8, 10 years all have a very specific and consistent style or character.
Yeah. Well, even back to like we were talking about earlier with Warhol, he always had that kind of like...
You could tell it was a Warhol.
You could tell it was a Warhol.
Like I've never seen that and I could tell immediately it's a Warhol.
Exactly. Yeah. The famous can of tomato soup he does.
100%. Yeah. The Brillo box of Brillo pads.
Where's the line you draw? Like we've talked before, just talking shit about artists and how some of them are pretentious. Like you've seen some of the videos, I'm sure the viewers have too, of, it's like a house of cards, literally, and the artist comes in and like knocks it over.
Oh,
and then,
yeah.
And then like, that's it, right? That's the art.
Which is funny.
Or a painting, someone runs up and throws paint on it and like, cool, that was
banana
it.
taped to a wall.
Literally.
Yeah.
How do you, as someone who...
That's a good question.
Who is like not pessimistic, but I know you're just like a non-bullshitter.
I'm critical.
Exactly.
We're cousins, by the way.
Yeah, if y'all didn't know, we're
context.
related. If you couldn't tell because of our voices.
And our side profiles.
Exactly. But so I know you, right? How do you, as a curator, as an owner of an art gallery,
That's a good question.
Draw the line between the bullshit, the pretentiousness, because it's a largely pretentious world, and then like, no, you actually like these pieces and you want to have an art gallery?
I think most people's bullshit radar is pretty tuned in, especially with like the deluge of information that we're all exposed to constantly, every day, all day. Like you have to have a pretty good bullshit radar to, exist nowadays. So like we can pull up a video of the Arsham, who I was mentioning is pretentious earlier. It's funny. What was it? It was either his own. Yeah, it was a fashion show for his clothing brand called Objects for Life, which is styled as Objects IV Roman numeral for Life.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Tyler, can you pull this video up? It's Daniel Arsham like deconstructing a shirt that he had cast in plaster of Paris. And it's like sitting on this pedestal and he walks up to it. This is like all part of the runway show. He walks up to this shirt sitting on a pedestal and he starts like crushing it in and like breaking it out of the mold basically. And he takes it, like shakes it, dusts it off, puts it around the model. And that's like the clothing.
That's it.
That's it.
That's the art.
Yeah. Arsham.
But I feel like every artist has the urge, right? Even him.
I wonder. I mean, somebody like KAWS, who we've mentioned it done like a number of times at this point, I don't think he has any, like having pretenses and being personally pretentious, I think are related, but not the same thing. Like, I don't think KAWS has any pretenses about who he is or what he does. He is was a graffiti artist turned toy producer, designer that also does some gallery artwork, these big, beautiful hand-painted prints with super attention to detail and color and line work and whatever else. But Arsham, like, revels in his pretentiousness. Like, that seems like that's become his brand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lived in a 200 square foot apartment that doubled as a studio when he was first getting started. Again, love the guy.
Of course.
Yeah. Cut his teeth early on.
His shit's cool too.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's why I love him so much, because like it isn't pretense for pretense's sake. He's actually good.
Right.
And if he didn't make Pokemon, like he's got so many pieces in his own studio that'll never be released, like a Cubone in that same style, a Gengar, a Haunter, like giant, a first edition Charizard card that's like 3 feet tall on his own wall that he'll never release. So it's this weird, like, interesting mix of, I can't tell if he's serious or not. Because, like, he's like a 40-year-old man obsessed with Pokemon. He's been in a Pokemon episode before.
No way.
They wrote him into one. Yeah, his little character's out there. Like, dude, it's awesome. But at the same time, I'll go and do a runway show where he's breaking a shirt out of a plaster of Paris mold.
Well, he probably hit a crossroads where
he knows what he's doing. Obviously,
he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
he knows what he's doing. He probably hit the crossroads where he's kind of doing his own thing. He's doing what he wants, and then he's like, I can get a lot of people talking if I do X.
He's definitely one of those people who has just always done what he wants to do and got lucky. He didn't get lucky. He put the time, put the work in, and his art works.
Right.
Like,
well, it's extremely unique. I mean, I've never seen artwork like that, and I remember I followed him before you told me about him.
Yeah,
because of his Porsche. He created this 911 Porsche made out of this plaster mold, and it had pieces broken off around it with crystals embedded in those those kind of holes and those cracks, and it was like so cool and so unique.
Yeah, stuff you'd never see. That's another facet of it too. Like, there's so much art out there, a ton of it, that you really, really nowadays, especially with social media and the level of access people have, you really have to make a name for yourself.
Okay, what's this? Daniel Arsham runway show.
It's probably towards the beginning.
Hold on, scroll down real quick before you start the video. By the way, posted by Christian Dior. A fictional archaeology, imagining what today will look like 1,000 or 10,000 years from now. That was the starting point for the scenography of the Dior Summer 2020 men's show. Very interesting. So Dior, a fashion designer, has a theme that fits in with Daniel Arsham's art.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, and he's stuck with that like eroded crystal, like crystalline sculpture style is almost his entire career. Obviously, it's working. And one thing he really does too, all of these artists that I mentioned, like, all have like produced goods, I guess you'd call them, like, the statues, the final figures, whatever. But they're all also incredibly talented traditional gallery artists. Like, one thing he really does is play with space well. So one of his installations is the word I'm looking for, has like, it's just this blank white room, but coming out of the wall is like a ribbon that comes together to tie like a perfect bow knot in the middle of the room. Oh. And it's like super out there, super inventive. Like,
interesting.
Yeah. You don't really I don't at least see people playing with space like that.
Yeah. He had the one, I guess it's not even really a piece. It's more of a, I don't know, like whatever, like an expression of space where it was like a body walking into a wall, and like the wall itself was failing around. I mean, super
clock
cool.
Dripping down into it, being suspended by like the paint on the wall.
Super cool stuff. Now his stuff is not as popular as like KAWS and stuff like that, because his stuff is a lot more rare. Like, he releases those pieces versus KAWS Bear Brick, right? Bear Brick, you can go online and buy a Bear Brick for what? 100.
I mean, there's some Bear Bricks you could buy for like $80, $90, $100.
Right.
Contrasted with a Bear Brick that Coco Chanel and Karl Lagerfeld designed, which were only given to Chanel boutiques. Wow. So if you get your hands on one, somebody like snagged one out of a boutique, or like it was a boutique owner who just put one on the market. They're like $40,000.
That's insane
for a 2-foot tall piece of plastic with Karl Lagerfeld's likeness on it.
It's weird how there's almost like there's a line between a toy or like an action figure,
art
and then
toys.
Like, literally, right. Well, that's what they are, right? You can position them,
100%.
You can play with them.
Absolutely. Pose them, put them in different settings and whatever
Pull
else.
Up a Bear Brick, because that's a weird one. It's almost like a Lego.
Yeah. Well, funny you mentioned Legos. Bear Bricks are from a company called Medicom Toy in Japan, who also has a line of effectively Legos called the Kubrick, literally named after Stanley Kubrick, because the guy who created it was just a huge, like, super mega fan of Stanley Kubrick's. So it literally is like a Lego minifigure with a bear's head. Yeah, the Baccarat crystal.
Baccarat crystal.
Yeah.
So that's an actual...
Yeah, officially licensed, like, Bear Brick, figure sold at Neiman's and Saks. Made of Baccarat crystal.
And I would also imagine too, you know, there's a Pinocchio. It looks like obviously.
Oh, that's the KAWS Pinocchio figure.
Oh yeah, you're right.
One of the hardest pieces to get.
Really?
Like one of the pieces I want in my collection, like the most, honestly.
Look, he's got Iron Man. He's got RoboCop.
Yeah, bear bricks are cool because it's just like a blank canvas.
Batman.
That you could put literally any design on. And it's cool that it's all like the artist is forced to, you know, use the shape of the bear. Like Iron Man has just random bear ears on it. You know what I mean?
But even the hands are like a Lego.
Yeah. It's literally a Lego with a bear headset, like a bear's head on it. It's pretty funny.
That is funny. That's awesome. Now you're going to have those in the gallery too, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so there's 3 different sizes of these things. There's the 100%, which is like the one of one, you know, it's the size of a Lego minifigure. It's like this tall. All the way up to 1000%, which is 10 times, you know, scaled up. It's 26 inches tall.
Wow.
One of my walls is going to be 18 of those.
Oh my God.
On their individual pedestals.
That's incredible. We got to get you back on the show once you open, and I want to see pictures.
Yeah,
I'll obviously visit in person too.
Yeah, once I got something to show.
Dude, that's so sick. So you're gonna have quite a few of these things. That's amazing.
Yeah, bear bricks are funny because they have like the widest gap between, you know, you get a bear brick of like Tweety Bird or Iron Man or something super commercial and obviously like pop culture-y versus there's a lot of this stuff comes from Japan. A Japanese wood, what would you call it? Like an artisan, like an old Japanese, like, you know, traditional wood. Carpentry is not the right word either. It's wood. I don't even know how to describe it. I never have known how.
A wood.
They're called karimoku, and it's like 70 years established, like beautiful Japanese wooden craftsmen that these guys will hand carve these wooden bear bricks out of that go for like tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh my God.
So the margin, the gap between the bear brick, like, you know, top and bottom ends is really interesting to me.
Yeah. I mean, it almost sounds like you can just go to a store and buy one for nothing.
Yeah.
A common one. And then there's like the Chanel,
the ones
boutique,
that no one can get their hands on. Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. These. Yeah. Gorgeous hand karimoku. Yeah. Hand carved. Yeah. What's the retail on this one or resale? Yeah,
$21,000.
Yeah, that's the lowest asking price for that one's $20,000, and that's like
unreal.
That's a 400%. The middle one, which is about, you know, this tall. It's like a 10-inch tall bear.
KAWS bear brick. So they've collabed too. KAWS and the bear brick. Now, so bear brick is Japanese.
Yeah.
So a lot of Japanese influence in this art.
A lot, yeah.
You've been to Japan. When you were over there, does that culture like really love this shit? They've got it everywhere.
Not as much as it is here, only because that's where it's from. So like Medicom has their stores in Tokyo. So like you go to the Medicom store or the 2G, it's called whatever, and you see like all of these in one store. But you don't really see like, you know, one piece in like a different store, just as decoration.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So it's not as maybe rare. Over there, it's like, they're from here, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, shit. I mean, they got a lot of other distractions.
There's a lot going on over there.
They've got the colors and the sights, and well, also too, look at anime. Look how colorful. Look at the artistic ability.
Exactly. Yeah. It's very much throw everything at a wall.
Right.
Whatever sticks, you're going to sell.
Is there any pieces that you plan on picking up in Japan and bringing them back?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, you have done that before?
A couple of things, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. So what have you picked up, and are some of those things going to be for sale?
I haven't been, or I've only been one time since like this ball started rolling. But there's a designer that, again, Kanye has been involved in this stuff for a long time. He shouts him out on one of his most recent songs. Junya Watanabe has a store called, or not a store, has a label called Undercover, which KAWS has actually collaborated with. There's so much intertwinings of all of these things that it's like, yeah.
Well, even just like, dude, the fashion, like Kanye, rapper, hip hop, whatever genre that is, that genre expresses designer, expresses some of this pop art, circling back to like the Japanese culture and the anime. And it's like, it's kind of all connected in this weird way.
Yeah. There's a ton of overlap between a bunch of different mediums.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. But maybe that's why it's popular, because you know, it's not just like one note, right? One type of people like this. It's like everyone likes it. But then again,
you attract people from all different arenas.
But that's popular.
Yeah,
pop
true.
art.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What's in the know? What's kind of like the current thing?
Yeah.
And this is an expression of that.
Yeah, I guess I've kind of like forgotten that pop literally means popular art.
Yeah.
I mean, Warhol started, like you said, the Campbell's tomato soup can.
Right.
Everyday item. Everybody knows what it is. Take it, subvert it.
Yeah.
It becomes a new thing.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's one of those things where art's been around forever.
Yeah. The beginning of time.
Beginning of time.
You put your hand on a wall, paint around it.
Literally. Cave paintings.
80,000 years are in Lascaux in Paris.
And
France.
people still love that shit. Like,
Yeah.
Like cave paintings are popular.
Yeah.
And then you got like Rembrandt, Van Gogh, and now it's like this new age stuff. Interesting how it shifts over time. Do you see any of these particular pieces or artists sticking around and being as legendary as a Vincent van Gogh?
Or even more recently, obviously, the Warhol.
Right.
That's a good question. Murakami 100% has staying power.
Right.
Yeah, his stuff is timeless. His iconic flower design with the smiley face, everybody's seen it in 1,000 different places. Honestly, yeah. It's interesting, like nowadays, because Warhol didn't have the internet. Keith Haring didn't have the internet. We do now in retrospect. But like, I wonder how much more popular these guys would have been given the tools we have now.
It could go two ways though, right? Like maybe because Warhol did not have the internet, his art stuck and it stuck better. Whereas maybe because of the internet, some of these new artists are going to come and go super quick.
Yeah.
And maybe Bear Bricks aren't cool in 10 years.
Yeah, maybe
15 years.
They could just be seen as like landfill. It's just trash with Iron Man on it. Who knows?
I mean,
that kind of stuff.
We're
too,
halfway there.
Honestly, literally, yeah. I mean, that kind of stuff. I think art's staying power and its legacy, I think, is completely up to who's like consuming it.
Right.
Like, you know, you talked about Rembrandt, like Monet, the classics, like the Renaissance artists. Those, all their artwork is in museums now. Maybe it's because they're so expensive you literally can't afford to put one in your house, like a Jackson Pollock piece. He's from like the 20s. Those are hundreds of millions of dollars. Ridiculously expensive.
All the way up to the Mona Lisa, which, you know, people could argue it's priceless. It's not.
Yeah, it's as worth as much as the whole country is.
Exactly.
Like there's no number for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting to think about in the future if some of this art, this pop art, will become the Mona Lisa of the future. I don't know. I don't know if anyone knows.
I think too, like the lack of the internet kept this like mystique around it, because Warhol and Keith Haring were doing their thing in New York. Like Basquiat was the same way. It was in New York. And if you weren't in New York at the time, you didn't really have access to the art scene.
Exactly.
You're at like, what was Studio 52, the cocaine-fueled disco, 24/7 disco party in New York. Like that's where they hung out.
Yeah. Did you hear Warhol? He did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Word of mouth. It was, you know, more traditional. Like I said, KAWS on, what's today? Wednesday? On Monday was like, oh, by the way, this figure's releasing tomorrow at noon.
Which is so
you couldn't
insane.
do that without the internet.
That's got to be strategy.
Of course.
On his part.
Yeah, of course it is. But because one thing KAWS will do too, it's funny. He'll have guests at his in-home studio, and it's always the same shot, always the same picture. It's like, well, I'll leave this a little bit more family friendly. He brings in these artists, and
it's a kid's show. Come on, we got to keep it.
I got you. Couches. Has this table where he has a bunch of different figures on it. And every time he posts a picture of that table, collectors, myself included, are zooming in, trying to find like, oh, is there a new piece he's teasing? Is there a new like thing going on?
Because he does that.
Because he does that, yeah. So last week on like Thursday, he posts a picture of whichever artist it was on this couch, and on the table was the new figure. Doesn't mention the figure at all. Just says like, oh, so happy to have so-and-so at the studio, but here's this new figure I'm releasing. And then 4 days later mentions it. So it's generating all this pre-sale hype based on like, oh, he's got some new figure coming out. I see it on the table.
Dude, the internet's weird like that, though. Think about if that was released in some sort of a print advertising or whatever it was in years past without the internet. You would have to see it and look for it and find it to know, oh, shit, there's a new piece coming up. I got to get ready for it. Versus the internet, you don't even have to find it because
you're in traffic.
You can go to Reddit, you can go in the comments section, and someone will be like, dude, zoom into the left corner. Like, dude, it's live.
That's funny. I left a comment on some other collector's page that I follow, one of his posts. I left a comment. I forget what it said. Somebody else replies, and they're like, "Oh, I hope KAWS like released, this one figure like that he posted in this picture on this day or whatever." And I was like, "What are you talking about? I didn't see that." And he's like, "Oh, zoom in. It's behind the couch leg." And I'm like, "What?
How did you find?
How did you even find that? How do you have the attention to detail?" It literally, I had to like. I was like, "Oh yeah, he's right. It's like I can see it. The little one little leg of the figure is behind the couch leg, and because like we know the figures that he's produced, it's like, oh, that's the Blitz figure. Is he gonna make a new one? Like, it's crazy.
Wow. So he knows
that kind of stuff is literally impossible without the internet.
Seems like a guy like KAWS is just like, hey, look, I'm an artist. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, 100%. KAWS is funny to me because the whole time he's been like scheming, gaming the system. Like, I don't know what you'd want to call it. So in 1997, 5, 9, one of those years, he goes to Japan, meets the guy who owns Bounty Hunter, and after like they meet, they hang out, whatever. KAWS signs a 1,000 piece toy deal with the manufacturer. So KAWS goes, okay, I could have this toy be edition of 1,000, or you give me 3 different colorways: gray, black, and monochrome, or monochrome, black, and brown. And now each of those is edition of 333. Same amount total pieces in the order, but each of the different colors is now that much more scarce. He's been doing that the entire time. Every one of his pieces has 3 different colorways. To get around, like, he gets the total manufacturing number, but cuts the amount in third. So it creates this, like, this,
what a clever guy.
Yeah. It's hilarious.
Oh, I have this figure. Yeah, but you have the blue one and I have the gold one.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like
it's the exact same figure.
Almost, but it's such a good business perspective. Like some of these different things we've talked about, the way artists are now using the internet in this business perspective, right? Like releasing something and being like, hey, this shit goes live next, tomorrow.
Literally tomorrow, yeah.
Or here's a little figurine in a picture you might not notice as a hint. Or what you just said about the colors. It's like artists today are almost using the internet to their advantage to bolster, like,
you have to,
the rarity, the exclusivity, the little like tricky stuff that they're doing. You know what I mean? It's like, it's interesting how the internet is almost affecting the art market in that way. What's something that you came across as you've started this journey into being a curator, art gallery owner, that you didn't expect? And what I mean is, like, obviously on its face, you're buying art, putting it in a gallery and selling it. But what's a piece of it where you're like, oh shit, like I didn't realize that?
Not so much to do with the gallery itself, but collecting and getting into the ecosphere of collecting. And this may only be an issue with a couple people that I've come across, people being like, oh, I'm a real collector. I've spent 10, 12 years, carefully crafting my collection and talking to people and networking and doing trades and deals and all this stuff and like building a very specific collection. Where like, I was fortunate enough to kind of come into the scene relatively recently, build out my collection.
Right. Well, people might be upset at that.
Yeah, of course. And this is not me like with a chip on my shoulder or anything. No, it's just something I've noticed about, there's an air of, like, not hierarchy is not the right word, but there's a pecking order. It
totem
seems.
Pole, yeah.
Yeah, a totem pole, exactly. Yeah, old head collectors being like, oh, I've been doing this since the beginning. Where it's like
pre-internet, yeah.
Yeah, where that's not like a really fair stance to have, because every day somebody discovers something new.
That's the way
they can't go back and they can't go back in time. I can't go back in time and be into KAWS in the 90s. World. I was 5 years old.
It's a different world.
I was 97. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like a curator of times past had to make the connections, had to network, had to get into the space where you had the ability to put a bid on a piece of art. Dude, now it's just the internet.
Yeah. I can go to StockX.com and with infinite money have every one of his pieces, every one of KAWS's pieces.
What's the place you mentioned in London?
Maddox Gallery.
So Maddox Gallery, right? Like, you know, the only reason you have that particular piece is because you went on their website, social, whatever it was.
Yeah, I searched for the one piece that I wanted to find. I found a website. I was on WhatsApp talking to a guy named David, who was like the liaison to like international whatevers. Spent like 2 months back and forth emailing, logistics, figuring all this stuff out. Yeah. The 4 foot piece is one that I'm like most proud of just because it took the most work to get, and you can't go on 4footcause.com and buy one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Well, there's no one. Well, that's what's kind of cool about the market though. You kind of have to go to other galleries and other curators to find the piece you want. Mm-hmm. It's almost, most of them at least. It almost just seems like, you know, you having the ability in terms of the internet to be able to find what you want, even though it might take 4 months, 2 months, whatever it is. You know, and an older person who's been in the business a lot longer, it's almost like they're telling a story of, well, when my day I had to walk up the hill both ways home from school.
Yeah, literally.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're like, okay, cool, dude. Like, I have the internet. Like, what do you want me to do?
This conversation is never going to stop either, because you saw it with like old music heads. Like, oh, we had to go back in the vinyl store and thumb through like, you know, milk crates of vinyls. Like, dude, we have Spotify now.
Right.
Shout out Spotify.
Shout out Spotify.
Like, it's just technology is going to change every single interest, regardless of what it is. Sports betting has completely changed the face of sports in this country. Like FanDuel.
Right.
FanDuel and whatever the other one is on the bottom ticker on ESPN. Like, that's not something you would have seen 10, 15 years ago. So it's attracting different people for different reasons. And it is what it is.
It is what it is. And people that have been in business before the next generation will always have something to say about how things are currently done.
Of course.
And unfortunately for them,
we will too.
And we will too.
Yeah.
Well, God knows what's next. I mean,
Well,
NFTs though, that kind of goes back to NFTs. That's what's next. And I would imagine someone like, shout out producer Tyler, you know, he's 20, right? So like maybe him and kids younger than him are like, bro, NFTs are the future. And if enough young people have that mentality, then maybe they are the future.
Yeah.
And maybe you're sitting there with your bear bricks and your KAWS, and they're like
an old man on my front porch.
Yeah.
Oh, kids these days.
Yeah. They don't know nothing about real art. And they're like, dude, we got NFTs, bro. We don't care about real art. You know what I mean? So it could shift. I mean,
it's definitely going to, and it's only shifting faster than like we thought possible because of technology.
Yeah. Do you see a lot of, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with, you know, we did touch on NFTs and a little bit on crypto, but crypto specifically. Is there a lot of crypto trading within that art world?
No, or I mean, not that I've seen.
So you're purchasing with dollars, right?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
So people aren't like, we'll take Bitcoin.
No, not at all.
They probably were when Bitcoin was like kind of up and it was popular.
I mean, maybe if you go through like a private trade, like so that like the person that you're talking to might want you to pay them in crypto, but like
Daniel Arsham was like, yeah, I'll take US dollars, bro.
Literally USD, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of makes sense.
You don't want to be stuck holding the bag of like X amount of Bitcoin or Ethereum and then the price tanks and, oh, where'd all my money go?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the whole issue with that whole system, right?
It's a woozle, it's a wazzle, it's a fugazi.
it's fairy dust. Yeah. But NFTs could only be purchased with with
Ethereum. For the most part. It depends on what blockchain they're on. It's a whole different conversation.
It is. It's a whole different podcast entirely. That's an entire like show.
That's an entire show. Yeah. I mean, I saw some overlap, and you still do like every NFT you buy or get into the project more often than not. If it's a blue chip NFT project, will have a Discord community. A lot of the people that are in there, mostly guys, I'll just say guys. A lot of the guys that are in there, it's like guys like our age for the most part. Are aware of these things. Like there's some KAWS collectors that I've met. There's some Murakami guys that I've met. There's some, guys that collect this, that, and the other. So there's definitely overlap, but it's not as much as people would think.
Right. Makes sense. I guess the only way you would connect them is because it's pop art and not traditional art. So it's new. And I think anything new people associate with crypto and NFT and all that, but it's a completely different space.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd be hard pressed to find the guy who's like got a 40 NFT or however many, whatever in his wallet that also has like a beautiful golden traditional fountain or whatever, like a giant framed art piece. Like I feel like they're pretty separated.
Yeah. 100%. There's like the, going into some homes that are like completely gaudy and like they've got the sculptures and the fake plants and the old Rembrandts. Yeah.
One thing I was going to ask you, being a real estate broker now, like if you've seen, like you deal with higher end clients, like probably a slightly older clientele, like how much of this kind of stuff have you seen?
I mean, dude, a lot. Like we mentioned Chihuly earlier. Like there was a house in St. Pete we sold that had a real Chihuly, and that's amazing. It was such a centerpiece. People walked in like, "Holy, is that a Chihuly?" Yeah,
because you can tell a style immediately.
And Chihuly, I don't know the full story, but that's been a big local, modern art piece. So obviously, having a piece in St. Pete is like, oh, that's sick. You know what I mean? It's a really cool thing. KAWS. I feel like I've sent you a picture from a house.
You or your mom
maybe once though, dude. Like it's not that prevalent. That article's encouraging though. Granted, that's a younger guy.
Because it speaks to our generation, not
exactly
your clients.
And by younger, I mean
35.
Well, I was just gonna say like 40, right? We're only 10 years away from 40.
Yeah.
But dude, like that person might not even necessarily be into that. Space is heavy. Do you know what I mean? Like a 40-year-old, they might not fully appreciate it as much as someone 35, 30, 25. Like they're not fully entrenched in that world. Whereas a Chihuly, someone who's 40 or 45, that's like the shit.
Especially if you're a Floridian.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's from here, but growing up, we went to the Chihuly Museum in like elementary school. Or not the museum. Yeah, I think the Chihuly Museum, like went to his studio even. And like saw all the stuff being made, and it was like amazing.
Yeah.
So 25 years ago, he was in Florida, and I'm pretty sure it was up here. So he's been, it's really cool to have someone that legendary, like be local like that.
Super cool. And seeing the article that younger guy with that pop art, I think that's going to be a lot more prevalent as people our age become a little older. We get a little bit more money.
I think so too.
We start to buy some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Hopefully from St. Pete Pop Art.
Dude, yeah, come on by.
Well, dude, we got dinner. We got to hit Ocean Prime tonight, so we got to wrap this up.
Let's do it.
Where can people find you?
stpetepopart.com.
St.
Website's in the works. It's still working behind the scenes, but yeah, stpetepopart.com and at St. Pete Pop Art on Instagram.
You got the full Insta, no periods, no 1, 2, 3, 4.
I mean, none of them. They're all available. There is no St. Pete Pop Art. There's no pop art scene in St. Pete, so I have I got free reign of the place.
I love it, bro.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for having me on,
fun.
man. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good time. We'll do it again.